Greetings citizens of Australia. We are anonymous. England has fallen. The British government has surrendered to Islam completely. The British government is doing its best to ensure that news doesn't get out to the rest of the world about it, so now it's time to expose it. If any British citizen of natural British descent dares to criticize Islam or the government, then the police invade their homes, confiscate their computers, fine them large sums of money, and place restrictions on what people can say, and how they must behave. Anonymous has seen many people post this news on social media, and it has been heavily censored within hours, and the person who posted the information has had their account disabled permanently, with no explanation or option for the victim of this kind of censorship to have their say. The British government is indeed censoring its own citizens who refuse to bow down before their new Muslim masters. Revolution will start soon in England, and it will not end well for those in power. This is the political left at play, and is taken directly from Adolf Hitler's handbook on what to do with those who disagree with those in power, since Hitler did exactly the same thing in Nazi Germany. The Australian government will be doing the same thing, and very soon. Did you know that the Australian government has just spent millions of taxpayer dollars to fortify buildings at Parliament House? First offence, now a fully secure building. The Australian government is gearing up to protect themselves against a revolution from the Australian people, which will eventually happen. The only reason they have the power to do this is because Australians were duped into giving it to them. The politicians rigged the electoral system so that they can win by way of preferential voting. We will not tell you who to vote for, but we will offer a suggestion. All you need to do is use common sense, and don't fall for any election promises that will never be honoured anyway. Australians could always use a vote of no confidence at the polling booths, which politicians call donkey votes. These votes are actually counted so that politicians know how many Australians see them for who they really are, and refuse to vote for them. This is the reason for them keeping themselves in power. If these Australians won't vote for them, then they simply import people who will. Anonymous doesn't buy for 1 second that millions of votes can be counted in such a short time frame after the day of the polling booths closing, not even by an advanced computer system, and not even if the vote counting was done in real time, and you, the Australian, shouldn't buy into that particular lie either. It's basic common sense. The second way they rig the election is the immigrant vote. The Australian government hands out citizenships on silver platters so long as they get the vote of the immigrants. It's not just boats bringing immigrants into Australia. A few months ago anyone could go to any domestic or international airport in the middle of the night when no flights are due to arrive, and play Spot the Aussie. The government has been bringing them in by the plane load for years. This is your foreign aid tax-fueled dollars at work. The Australian people are paying for the invaders to invade them, all thanks to the communist left in government. And when these traitors in government deny this claim, ask yourself, when was the last time any of these people told the truth, and then were caught in their own web of lies? These stupid people can't even admit that Victoria has an African gang problem. Premier Daniel Andrews told the Victorian Police Commissioner that there is no African gang violence in Victoria so that he wouldn't get labelled a racist. So the Commissioner, like a good little boy, did what he was told and repeated that lie on your TV screens ad nauseum, and still pushes that same lie despite the evidence being everywhere. The rest of the government simply goes along with this lie because it supports their agenda for mass immigration. After all, those immigrants won't want to come to Australia if they know it's not going to be hospitable for them. The lying fake news media will always play the sympathy toward the criminal, whoops, we mean immigrant card, but they don't seem to realize that many Australians simply aren't that stupid. The fake news outlets love to pacify Aussies by conducting their polls of the Australian people, to make it seem like they want to give Aussies their say. The results of these polls, if unfavourable, are never published. Funny that, isn't it? They tend only to conduct such polls of controlled demographics to ensure that they get the result that they want. Occasionally a poll will slip out on social media and many normal Aussies will jump on it and show the fake news media results they don't want you to see, to which, as we said before, they will simply ignore. Australia. Listen to us very carefully, right now. This is the most important thing you will hear, before you go to the polling booths. It seems that these out-of-control gangs are being protected by those in power, and that is the ultimate truth. They are protected. The media never reports what really happens with these gangs, especially how frequently it happens, because it will cause a huge mass outrage with all Australians, who will demand that these criminals be deported, and the left can't afford to lose those votes. And on the subject of polling booths and elections, prepare to suffer under the rule of your new Prime Minister, Bill Shorten. This man will become your next PM. When he does, if you think immigration is bad now, it's going to get much, much worse. The Islamization of Australia will kick into overdrive, which is being helped by all the attention being shifted from Islam, and onto the African gangs. Anonymous has told you before what's coming. Prove us wrong. The only way you can stop your nation going completely up the proverbial creek without a paddle, is to change your vote. Alternatively, Aussies can literally throw these corrupt bastards into prison, just like Iceland did, after seizing their assets, their bank accounts, and hold any of their associates to account. If the Australian people have to suffer under guilt by association laws, then so can these corrupt people, including the corrupted kangaroo court system, and the corrupted police force as well. Those politicians spend your tax money on third world shitholes who hate you. These immigrants have proven themselves time and time again to be your enemy. The only enemy that is worse is the enemy from within. Aiding the enemy in times of war used to be known as treason, now it is called foreign aid. Australian politicians don't like the word treason because it immediately conjures up images of the hangman's noose, which is how many of these corrupt politicians were executed in the past by hanging from the neck until they were dead for their deeds. Perhaps Australia needs to bring back the death penalty, especially for these traitors. Third world mass immigration needs to be stopped, and stopped immediately. For those of you who don't believe that Bill Shorten will be your next Prime Minister, just watch. He's already been pre-selected by the United Nations and the globalists. When, not if, but when this happens, you, the Australian people, will finally realise who really rules over you. Only one Australian senator seems to have the balls to stand up against unlawful third world immigration, and because he is saying so, the left is trying to crucify him. Perhaps Australians should vote for such a man. Actions speak louder than words, and this man's actions speak volumes. Eventually, when the censorship starts in Australia, the best thing you can do is not use your real name on social media, and never add a mobile phone number to your social media accounts. Don't ever add apps like Facebook Messenger, Snapchat, Instagram or WhatsApp to your mobile device. Its terms and conditions which you are forced to accept or not use it demand access to your camera and personal information as well as your contact list. Remember, guilt by association laws will be used against you. This is how authorities located British citizens and censored them in person, which in reality is legalized intimidation and Gestapo tactics. The worst that can happen to you if you adhere to this is you lose that social media account, and you can just make another. If you really want to annoy Facebook, just use a VPN service to hide your real-world location. But not one that's advertised on TV, as those are government-controlled. Use one that does not log user activity. Ask yourself, would they really go that far if they want to find you? Of course they would. Because you need to be silenced. The truth needs to be silenced. The truth to those in charge makes them guilty. Their support which they have for extreme far left-wing movements such as Antifa, are direct copies of Adolf Hitler's Brown Shirt Brigade. Take a look at Google images for the Antifa flag, then search for Antifa Nazi Germany. Their logos are a direct mirror image of each other, and their tactics are the same. And they have the hide to call everyone else Nazis. Perhaps someone should inform Antifa that Nazi Germany was over 60 years ago. Modern-day leftist politics is exactly the same as Nazi Germany, but with manners and political correctness. The reason we mention Antifa is because they openly admit on their social media pages that they are still training with African gangs. Wow! Bet you didn't know that. It has been said that those who never learn from history are doomed to repeat it. History is repeating itself, and will repeat itself yet again when the real enemy is utterly defeated. One final thought, which is factual, and we are throwing it onto the end of this video just because we can. Angela Merkel is a direct relation to Adolf Hitler. No wonder Germany has gone to hell. We are anonymous. We are legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Expect us.